If you've never built a custom home before, the process takes about 6 months, and that's if you have every subcontractor lined up from the initial land clearing or site prep all the way up until final flooring and cabinet install. And if you skip or you have any delays in any of those steps or processes along the way, then you end up in a protracted building schedule, and that's where we're at, and that's why we didn't have a video of any house progress for about 2 weeks, because for about 6 weeks there's been nothing going on with our house build, and it's nobody's fault but our own. So we own it when we cause the delay, and the reason we cause this delay is because we're trying to build this house as cheap as we can, but still get a nice, well-built house at the end. And we didn't realize how important cabinets were, because we've always bought houses over our lifetime that are already built and they already have the cabinets in it, and someone's already made that decision. You don't really think about the thought that it took to put those cabinets in, and you definitely don't think about how expensive they might be. We did not go to like a cabinet design center and design the cabinets and have them install it. What we did was we bought the cabinets ourselves, so we had to get a separate independent installer. So the first day he was here, he was able to do this in the mudroom, and we'll get into it, but the reason he couldn't finish the mudroom is because the shoe bench and one of the base cabinets was missing. Also, we're getting wall cabinets, and the order that came in was wrong. Here's the half bath, there's the vanity, but they finished the wrong side of the vanity, so we need a skin for that side. Coming into the kitchen, we designed a really big island, and then we found out that the island was too big for really practical uses, and we downsized the island, which wasn't a big deal. We had plenty of cabinets for that. But on this wall spacing from there to there, and keeping the window in the center and the sink centered on the window with the dishwasher over there, we didn't have the right trim pieces to go around the refrigerator. So you'll see an extra cabinet there that came out of the original island configuration where it was a lot wider. It's a little dark in here, but the guest bathroom was pretty much set except for, and I excuse the lack of lighting, but this side wasn't finished, so we had to get a finished side for that. You can hear Michael hard at work in here. And we laid out the master bath cabinets, but what we found is that the center cabinet was too wide and everything wouldn't fit in here, and mainly because of the molding right there. If we used the cabinet that was sent originally, that door would hit that molding. So we had to get a narrower center cabinet so we'd have more space in here, and Michael will be trimming it out. Michael is measured and got his little chalkboard going on here for all of his measurements for the plumbing, and now he's cutting out the back of the cabinet. And we'll leave him alone, let him keep working. So this is day 2 for Michael, and he has just about everything he needs except for our, in the mudroom, the shoe bench where you sit down and change your shoes, and the broom closet. That has to be custom made. Our hood, we have the hood that goes over the range, but there's an extension because our ceiling are 9 foot tall. There's an extension that didn't come with the hood. So the reason that we make these videos is, one, to show the progress out here in Piney Grove. I mean, this has been an interesting experience for us. We knew it wouldn't go 100% smoothly, and we've had some frustrations along the way, but in the big picture, the big scheme of things, it's gone pretty good. It's gone pretty well, and the final product is really nice. We have a really nice house here, and we're so close to being able to move into it. And if it weren't for our own desire to save money, we probably could move into it. The reason we lost 6 weeks in building is 100% on us, and it's because when you building a house, you have a budget. And by budget, basically the general contractor has gone through and said, framing costs this much, siding costs this much, paint costs this much, roofing costs this much, etc. Everything that it takes to build a house, because a house is nothing but a system of subsystems. So you got HVAC, you got water, you got electrical, And every one of them is a trade or a specialty, and every one of them has a price to build this house. And your goal is to stay within that budget. Now, a budget like framing is pretty easy to stay within because you don't really make a lot of framing changes when you're building the house. All that kind of happens during the architectural process. But other things like, you know, your siding, maybe you go from vinyl to hardy board, and like on our roofing, we upgraded our shingles at the last minute. They actually had the shingles on site for the original estimate, and then we didn't like the shingles. We wanted more shingles with relief, or that had, you know, kind of showed more variation in the field there. And that was a $1,000 or $1,500 upgrade. So we blew the budget there by $1,500, and so on across the board. As you upgrade, you'll blow the budget because the budget is based on kind of medium grade stuff. And by stuff, I mean cabinets, toilet fixtures, electric lighting and doors and stuff like that. And if you try to go elite or high end, then that blows your budget. And I've never built a house before from scratch. I've never really bought cabinets before, but the budget, the line item budget for cabinets was $22,000, and that was blown away by $11,000 by the very first estimate. And this was a guy that was not building custom cabinets. These are called RTAs, or ready to assemble, or box cabinets. These are not a wood maker taking strips of oak or whatever and making your cabinets so that they're solid wood. A lot of this stuff is processed wood, like plywood. We don't have any particle board in our cabinets, but they're not made out of solid oak like they used to be. And if you wanted to put like solid oak cabinets in this house for the cabinets that I've already shown you, you're looking at like $50,000 to $70,000. And that may not include everything. What we found out was that the hood over the range is actually considered an appliance. So when we got the $30-some thousand quote, it didn't include the hood. And it's like, well, how much is the hood? Well, hoods can be $1,000 to $5,000. You can get a copper hood for $5,000. And that may not include the fan in it that updrafts the odors in your kitchen. So we had to scratch him off. We went up to a custom cabinet maker where they have a CNC machine, and they put pieces of plywood on there, and it makes your cabinets. And we sat 4 or 5 hours with the designer there. They came in like $4,000 or $5,000 above budget, but that was all inclusive. That was everything we wanted, to include the hood. And we almost went with them, but we had one more company we wanted to talk to because we had experience with that company when we built my parents' house, and that was a budget builder, but they actually put the cabinets in without asking us like what kind of cabinets we wanted, because that was what was included in the house building package. So we looked into them, and the reason that we went with them is because people like Michael actually went in the house and saw those existing cabinets and said, man, they put some really nice cabinets in here. I am not a cabinet expert. All I'm going by is the fact that our general contractor went into my parents' house we built on the property and said, man, these are some nice cabinets. And then the cabinet installer actually installed a set of cabinets from the guy who gave us the $33,000 quote. And when he came here and saw these and put these in 6 weeks ago or so, he goes, these are so much better than that other brand. And we got these actually under budget. So what makes a cabinet special? Well, number one is the look. We went with raised panels. A lot of people want to do shaker nowadays, but we like raised panels. But the level of detail, like on this edge, most cabinets are just going to have like a square edge on them. These have a rounded edge that's kind of mitered in here, or whatever you want to call it, with a router, however they're made, because this is not real wood. This is kind of like a laminate material. But we had what's called glazing done, and that's where they take a needle with paint in it, and they go down all of the lines of the cabinets, anywhere where two surfaces meet. That was an upcharge, but we had more places where we could put that glaze than on the more expensive cabinets. They're soft closure, so they don't slam shut. And also the build is plywood, so I think it's maple plywood or something. So there's no particle board here, and everything that the cabinet installer kind of showed us. He said, man, these are top-notch cabinets. So we kind of sort of by accident ended up with really, really nice cabinetry at a cost. I'm pretty sure we're under budget. I know we're either at or under budget, and that includes paying him as an independent installer. As I go on and on about cabinets, it's because it's that important and it's that big of a budget breaker. If we had went with the first quote that was $11,000 over budget, we would have ended up with, one, a broken budget, and two, we would have ended up with inferior cabinets. Now these cabinets here are not direct to consumer, but because we had a relationship with the cabinet company, we reached out to them. Like most cabinet companies, they use a cabinet reseller or a cabinet designer who actually would go in your house and 3D model your house like the first guy and give you a plan for your cabinets, and then they coordinate everything. They coordinate with the manufacturer to manufacture your cabinets. They get them delivered, they get them installed, and that $33,000 was one price to do all that. Well, in order to save over $11,000, we went directly to the cabinet company, and that's not what they do. Sometimes it's hard to convey what you need to them because they're in the industry and they talk it on a daily basis, and you talk about it, once or twice in a lifetime. But they had one guy who's a traveling salesman that is the only one that has experience with designing cabinetry or designing kitchens and bathrooms. We got the order through him, and then it goes over to the sales and support, and they put the order together, and the paint, these cabinets don't come in that color, so you can pick certain colors. We picked Dove Latte, so it's got to go in the paint room, it's got to get those pinstripings put on it or the glazing, and if there's any other customization. And then the next step is to arrange shipping. Well, they ship directly here, so there was nobody here to receive the shipment, and it's just a truck driver. Literally, it's in a tractor trailer truck, and it's 24 pallets of cabinets, and someone's got to unload that. So the GC had to come here and help the driver unload it and get it all in the garage. And that's where some of your cost savings come in, but the biggest cost savings is that you're not paying the middleman. You're not paying the designer to do all this, and you're not paying the designer to have a subcontractor here to unload it. So that's where your cost savings come in. But the issue with that is, since we're not experts and since the GC is not a cabinet expert, when the order got here, there were a lot of things that were wrong with the order. And when I say a lot of things, showstoppers, things that what you saw in the beginning of the video was was as far as he could get with the items he had on hand. There was a base cabinet forgotten. There were some spacing issues, and he was at a work stoppage. So he worked for the better part of one day to get that done. We had to wait for the corrections to go through the paint booth process and all of that. Meanwhile, the house sat without work being done on it. And then once those items arrived, which was 2 days ago, Friday, here on Monday, we can start with the install process. And then after that will be flooring and countertops. But my whole point of that story is that in order to save money, to save that $11,000 and for the cabinet install to go smoothly, we had to let the house sit for 6 weeks. Those are the reasons why people will select someone like the $33,000 first guy, because it's one-stop shopping and it happens exactly on time and it doesn't hold up other work. That is interesting. I have a stud finder and it beeps when there's a stud, and this one will actually adhere magnetically to the drywall screws, and that way he knows exactly where the stud is. I guess unless the drywall guy got the screw wrong, but there it is. The only thing holding that up is the magnet to the drywall screw. My dad was a builder, so I'm familiar with tools and used in construction, but I've learned a lot, and I just learned something right there. I never would have thought that you would have it magnetized to the screw that's holding on your drywall. So when we talked about the order was wrong, so there's a certain amount distance between there and this wall, and then the cabinets are like 21 inches, 23 inches, 24 inches, whatever the space, a cabinet is made. They don't make a cabinet that's 23.5 inches if you need one. So what you want is some spacing between your cabinet and the wall, and then you'll put a piece of trim over it. The problem we had is when this center piece was wider, we've got a narrower one now. I think we have an 18 and we had a 24 before or something like that. What that did by going to a narrow cabinet was allow space on each side, because otherwise, if this cabinet was against this wall, this door couldn't open properly. It would either hit the wall or it would hit the molding. Now the base mold is going to get cut, but still, that's why we had the delay and we had to wait. But this is why you need an experienced cabinet installer, because you have a lot of factors here. You have that width that we talked about where the cabinets don't fit. And the guy who I talked about earlier who set up these cabinets, we gave him that width and he designed the cabinets to fit in there, but he didn't take into account that more modern houses are starting to use dimensional lumber for their baseboards rather than the small 2-inch baseboards or 3-inch. You know, we have a 1x6 as our baseboard down there, and it's not only taller, but it's thicker, and it doesn't allow doors to open. Well, he didn't know what baseboards we had because he's in another state and talking to me on the phone. So that's why the order was messed up there. And also the concrete may not be perfect, but the top of the counters or the cabinets have to be. So Michael has shimmed all the bottoms of the cabinets so that they're level on the top. So when the granite fits on them, the granite sits on the cabinets and there's not gaps and it's not wavy, so that the granite weight is fully supported. So it's a very technical process, and most of us just go into our kitchen and there's cabinets there and, you know, they magically got put there, but here's the magic of how they get installed. I wanted to mention a few things. You know, we talked about spacing and stuff, and cabinets aren't perfect. Even though they're built in a controlled environment and they're built with plywood and not, say, boards. And boards tend to warp and plywood tends to stay straighter because it's a laminate and it's got different plies to help keep it from warping. They're still not perfect. And you and I could probably install cabinets. We could butt them up to each other and screw them into the wall, and they probably would be okay, but they wouldn't be perfect. So you not only need to have the top perfect so the granite sits without any kind of wobbling, you also need them to be, what he's doing here with a straight edge is the front of the cabinets, again, because the cabinets aren't built perfectly, they're not perfectly square. He's moving these cabinets a little bit, just maybe a 32nd of an inch back and forth with the screws, and maybe a cabinet is just not perfectly square to the wall, so he can get the front right, because what you want is the front right, because that's what everyone sees is the front. And also the wall may not be correct. So he has some shims on the wall between the back of the cabinet and the drywall, and these are all things you'll never see. You never knew that they happened. But that's the difference between a professional cabinet installer and a do-it-yourself person that just didn't realize there were that many things you had to correct or adjust for.
Wow, that's a wall of cabinets there. I'm very excited. My future vanity. Can't wait for my soaker tub to go in. We haven't talked about my soaker tub in a while, but I'm really excited about my soaker tub and these cabinets. It looks amazing.
Deb, you know, we have these upper cabinets for here, right? And Michael says that you can put them up and then slide your granite under, but he doesn't do it that way because he wants the granite on there so we can get the upper cabinets right. And I said we may not do upper cabinets because we have so much cabinetry and we have a linen closet, which we've never had before. He said, you will regret not putting those cabinets in. Really? Well, he said what he can do is once the granite's on here, because he's got to come back for the toe kick and the shoe molding and all that other stuff. We've already paid for them, the cabinets. So he said we can put them up here, you know, and just set them up there and look at it. And he goes, when he comes back, it'll take him a few minutes to install them, right? It's not a big deal. So we can make that decision later.
Basking in the glow of my kitchen cabinets. Nice.
It's coming along.
It is. You're doing a great job. I'm going for that one. You're following me, stalker, stalker, stalker. Strange man's following me with the camera. Oh, look. Wow. That's so many cabinets.
Okay, Mike got everything installed and we couldn't be happier with the way that he installed everything. His attention to detail was so spot on. He made sure everything was shimmed out correctly. And then we had the granite folks come by and shoot the template or measure for the template. And they complimented on how perfect that he got the cabinet. So we're real happy that Michael put them in for us. He'll have to come back and do some adjustment to the doors and also put on the knobs and everything after the granite's installed. We've been a buzz of activity here, and we've got a lot of electrical done, and also all the tile is on site to tile the floors of the house. You want to show them your color or your tile choice for like the living room? That's it right there, right?
Yep, this is it. This is a piece of it. That will be everywhere except the bedrooms and the master bathroom.
This is real time because we thought we were going to come in here and shoot the ending for this video on the cabinets, and we didn't think that any tiles were actually going to be going down. But let's work our way into the house here. Okay, big things that were missing were the refrigerator enclosure, so that's all done. The crown molding, so you can see we've got all the can light in here, so we can show you this a little bit better. And we pulled the sink out a little bit farther because we had to figure out how the granite was going to lay here. So the sink extends out a little bit further.
I actually like that the sink comes out a little bit further. It gives it, again, kind of more that farmhouse feel. You can kind of see the apron better too. I like it.
And you were really impressed with the amount of storage space you have in all your cabinets, right?
It's insane how much storage space I have, y'all. This is one of the smaller cabinets, right? But just look, oh, there's no shelves on that one. I would open the one. Look at this one. Look. It's just crazy how much storage space we're gonna have in this kitchen. So we also went with our cabinets, we went with more drawers. I don't know if I can, for pots and pans, because one of us really doesn't like having to bend down and get pots and pans out of a cabinet. And I've never had a pot and pan drawer, but I can see how it's going to be very, very handy. We've got 4 pot and pan drawers, and all of the drawers are big. Our house in Panama City is older, so all of our drawers are the standard, was that 18-inch wide. So these big drawers, game changer.
And then we're going to have X's on the decorative X's on the end of the counter. But the reason that the island is smaller is so we'd have more space to walk in here. The island used to come out, what, 18 more inches?
Yeah, the island came out to here. We didn't realize that this was going to be closed off. So we thought this was going to be open and that wouldn't be a problem. Well, we read the plans wrong, so it's our fault. But this was going to make this too narrow. So we just readapted with the cabinets that we had, and it's actually a perfect size island.
And Michael had to build the base here because these were wall cabinets. One of them, which actually was a wrong size cabinet that came from the mudroom, and we just kind of made this so it was a little shorter, and then Michael built a base for it. And after the tile goes in, then Michael will put a toe kick along the bottom, and then we also have color matching shoe mold or quarter round, as it's called. But that's this week's update on the house. Things are moving real quickly now. We had at least a 3-week delay because of the cabinets, but now electricians, tile, cabinet guy will come back, granite, all that stuff's moving along quickly. So in the next update, the floor will be the flooring in the house. So Deb, I know you're excited. I know some of this stuff you just saw as I did, but are you happy with your selections and how it's coming out?
So happy. And we hadn't seen this stuff in 6 months, right? We picked it out 6 months ago, so we kind of remembered what it looked like, but seeing it all laid out, I can't wait till it's all done. So pretty.
But that's all we got for today's video. We appreciate you guys watching, and we'll catch you on the next one.
Take care.
Take care, guys.